Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. That's Randy Buehler, I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. We're headed into the second draft round where we've got a really nice one for you. We've got Ari Lax down in the feature match area sitting ready to play against Brad Nelson. We'll introduce you to them when we head down, which is right now. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler, and it's time for round 2 of our first booster draft of the tournament here. We've got a nice one lined up for us. We've got Brad Nelson. Take a look at Brad here. Brad's got 3 Pro Tour top 8s and 12 GP top 8s. He was also the player of the year in 2010. He is one of the best standard players in the world. He's got a 70.5% win percentage in standard. Now, this is limited. It's a different area. We're going to see how he comes up with his deck here. His opponent, Ari Lax, of course, our Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir champion, Platinum Pro, and kind of just been around forever. You know, everybody knows Ari, and it looks like we're ready to go here. Taking a look at the deck list, I can see that Brad is playing white-green, which is an archetype that I have not explored a lot of yet, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then his opponent,
mostly humans deck, right?
That's what it tends to be.
Yeah.
The question is, what are the payoffs, right? That's where you wanna look. Now on the other side of the table, Ari's taken white-black, which is one of the best color combinations in terms of removal. It's a little light on synergy. There's not a whole lot going on with, you know, specific color pairs or bigger picture synergy. So we'll see what happens here. Looks like a nice quick start here from Ari, though, against a Devil Thorn Fox from Brad Nelson. Okay, now this is really interesting. So Brad's just played Ulvenwald Mysteries, which is a card that was already excellent, and it's somehow better now in the new format. Whenever one of Brad's non-token creature dies, or whenever one of his creatures dies, he's going to get to investigate. Whenever he sacrifices a clue, he gets a 1/1 human. So once, you know, the 2 creatures, the creature that he has right now, if that thing were to die, he gets to replace it with a 1/1 and a card. And as you can see, that starts to really get out of hand, and it's even going to hold back attacks from Ari outside of his Olivia's Bloodsworn, which is going to get in the air. And there's a Courageous Outrider for Ari Lax. Did not catch if he revealed a card off of it. We'll ask our sideline reporter down there to see if there was a card revealed, since I didn't see it. But this is already starting to look decent for Brad here. He's going to play a Solitary Hunter here, and it looks like the ground is starting to get nicely locked up. The Thraben Foulbloods is being held at bay. Wow, here's another Courageous Outrider. Let's see if he hits on this one. Looks like he may be whiffing again. It's either what order do I want to put them in, or which of the 2 cards that I hit am I picking from? It's starting to feel like the latter at this point.
Yeah, Brad's limited game has really stepped up of late. I mean, I feel like the move to Team Eureka has helped him a lot in that respect. I mean, he's bounced around on teams over the course of the last couple of years, but seems to have settled in nicely with those guys.
Looks like a Midnight Scavengers is what Ari revealed there, if I saw correctly. So we'll see how that plays out as we move forward. In the meantime, though, Ari not wanting to play into Brad's game plan here with his Ulvenwald Mysteries, and he's just content to build out his board and chip away in the air with Olivia's Bloodsworn. There's a chance that Ari has a bit of a Delirium sub-theme going here as well, as you see the Thraben Foulbloods. The typical Delirium payoffs aren't game-swingingly huge. They're more like my creature gets a little bigger and gets a bonus, but still, those add up. The Solitary Hunter is actually a pretty big problem for Ari. I see that Ari's got the 2 Courageous Outrider on the battlefield. He's also got 2 Faithbearer Paladin in his deck, which are also 3/4s and just bounce off of that thing. Now, one way that Ari can push through damage is he has a Lunarch Mantle in his deck, which is going to give his creature +2/+2 and the ability to get flying occasionally. And I also see that Ari has a really nice bomb. He's got Dark Salvation in his list. So we'll run over that one if it pops up. There's got a lot going on to read out on the air. But if it shows up, we'll walk you through it. And Ari will probably win the game shortly after, as is customary with Dark Salvation. Brad's kind of in the tank here, trying to decide what to do. He's been surveying the board for a while. He's played his 5th land. And what does he come up with? Wow, Equestrian Skill. We didn't see a lot of that in Shadows over Innistrad, and certainly haven't seen a lot of it here with Eldritch Moon out.
Payoffs for
but
humans.
there it is. So this is going to be a 6 power, 7 toughness trampler now.
14.
And Ari's, I think he's like, yeah, get that blocker out of the way. I'll take some damage, because I think that Ari is the one who's trying to put together a race here, and his attack looks quite nice now. He's getting in for at least 8 damage this turn, assuming that Brad doesn't have anything. So we'll see what Ari's plan is here. It was a Wailing Ghoul, not exactly the power play he wanted to make this turn, but hey. It looks like he's going to leave back the Foul Bloods, declining to offer the trade, and there will be no trades offered here from Ari. Oh, he actually had Confront the Unknown.
Only one pack of Shadows.
It's the one, and it's not terrible for Ari. Like, let's not, it basically is going to be 2 clues for Brad, and Ari's going to lose one of his 3/4s. So it's not the end of the world for him by any stretch, but that was the one card that he was like, okay, well, you do actually get to chip into my board state here. And as the game goes longer, all of this benefits Brad. All of it.
Hello. Anguished Unmaking. Down goes Giant 6/7.
That's interesting. Yeah, the Anguish Unmaking, he wants to target, like, I think targeting the Ulvenwald Mysteries was something that would go through Ari's mind, but it's really tempting to just get the big 2-for-1 there and set back Brad a lot on tempo, because the one thing about Mysteries is that it's slow. It is slow. Like,
Right.
he's
It's also an exile effect, so it doesn't even trigger the Mysteries.
Yeah, great point. He doesn't even trigger it on top of all that. Now, he's got 2 clues out there already to start getting things rolling, and Ari's going to have to try to grind through the humans that are going to show up in any other place that Brad comes up with. But hey, we'll see. So it looks like Brad has left up 4 mana here. Ari immediately scoops them all up, looking to attack.
Draw 2 cards. I can shove this.
So he's mapping out, well, you're going to draw a couple of cards, make a couple of humans, but I can still attack with everything profitably, so he's going to do just that.
Draw. Yeah.
Looks like there's a Steadfast Cathar as well, which is just a 1 toughness blocker.
I'm going to put you to 2 here. All your stuff dies.
You heard it from Ari. Puts you to 2. All your stuff dies. He's trying to overwhelm the Ulvenwald Mysteries here, and he's doing a really good job of it.
Indeed.
Did you hear what he said?
How many cards?
He said you can play Bruna and get that back, which is interesting. I think that he's just going through worst case scenarios at this point, but oh,
Does Brad have one?
well, I'm kind of flabbergasted here, Randy. He does. It's not in the main.
Wow.
And that does it. Ari Lax is going to take that game. He must have passed it to him or something, because he knew about it. He said, Bruna, you get that back, but he still said, I'm still going to win. But Brad's actually not main decking Bruna. Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, that's going to do it for game 1. We'll be back right after these messages.
Put your game to the test at a Grand Prix. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with the best players in your region, as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Upcoming Grand Prix include Lille, Indianapolis, Guangzhou, Louisville, and Kyoto. Visit magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix for more information.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in Sydney, Australia. Let's take a look at one of our side tables where we have Olivier Ruel and Godenis Vidigiris battling out in game number 2 with Olivier up a game. And let's take a look at the scene. So it looks like we've got a Brazen Wolves and a True Faith Sensor on one side. So an unlikely combo, but we do see planes there for Godenis, so probably has some humans to go along with it. On the other side, wow, he is getting smashed here. A Geist-fueled Scarecrow. Looks like it's pounding in there. There's also a Rattle Chains, and that's a Terrarian that just entered the battlefield here for Olivier. But this is a lot of work for Godenis to do. And, you know, the Brazen Wolves are serviceable on defense, but they really want to be attacking. Godenis is trying to find a way to survive here. He's all the way down to 10 and facing some really nice threats. One of them evasive, one of them just huge. You know, 4-4 for 4 is just bigger than anything anybody's doing on turn 4 outside of rares. So
It's quite the curve from Olivier.
Godenis is a deliberate player, shall we say. He certainly takes his time, and this looks like a critical juncture here. I don't think he has really anything to give. So I think he played a Murderer's Axe and just equipped it by discarding a card there.
Yep.
So that gives him a 4/5 blocker, which is just perfect against a 4/4. But Godenis knows that this is a necessarily risky play where if Olivier has basically anything, he's just dead.
And Olivier's like, well, I have 4 power worth of flyers. How about I just put you at 6?
Yeah. He cracked that Vessel of Ephemera on end step there. And even though the roadblock is in place, like you said, Olivier has other options. He can just attack in the air. So he's really presented a interesting diversity of threats for Godenis to deal with. Right. And it looks like Godenis is leaning aggressive. You know, 2 equipment already and a Brazen Wolves is what we've seen from him. So he's probably would much prefer to attack. You know, I'm going to go ahead and say let's move back to table 1 here. Olivier, looking to be in great position, is going to take some pretty special cards from Godenis to get out of that, though there are some in the format, so we'll keep an eye on it. So Ari Lax navigating that first game to finish off Brad Nelson and pick up the first one. That's a Graph Harvest turn 1 here for Lax. That could get interesting. That gives all your zombies menace, and you can see it on the side of the screen there. So
how high do you have that card?
I do not have it high.
Yeah, I have thought of it as a sideboard card.
That's how I think of it too. But I will tell you that is a controversial opinion for both of us. Yeah, there are a lot of players that like Graph Harvest a lot better than that, and you can see why, right? I mean, in a long grindy game, it can certainly pull its weight. If you have enough zombies, that can be good. Makes zombies, so that, you know, sort of feeds itself. It's just you really need to know that the game's going to be one of those grind fests to make it worth it. And that's why I like to bring it in out of the sideboard rather than main deck it.
It's the opponent's control on that card, right?
Ari's his main, right?
I'm going to look, actually. By the way, we do have an update on that one. Olivier Ruel did win that game. It looked like
Okay.
he was going to. But,
Which is
you
gives
know,
him the
Savage
match then.
Alliance is a card. Like, it wasn't over, but... Yeah, he's got it in the main deck. And I'm not surprised to see that. Like I said, there's quite a few players who really like Graph Harvest and will main deck it quite happily. So
2 copies of Lunarch Mantle in Brad's hand.
11.
wow,
He has a lot of auras in his deck.
he does. He's got double Lunarch Mantle plus Equestrian Skill is what we've seen.
Somehow he's drafted Boggles.
Flying Werewolves. All right, now you see one of the payoff cards there, a Lone Rider that he's played, and that is a prime target for a Lunarch Mantle. If you can assemble that combo, it is very difficult to beat. And there it is. Right on time there from Ari Lax. You know, we talked about this card earlier, and
I'm at 11.
it is a complete blowout in this scenario. The interesting thing is that with Dark Salvation, he actually did target the Lone Rider. He says, I know what my problem is here. Like that, right now it's not doing a ton, but
20 cards?
he wanted to make sure to kill it. So Ari is going to spend 5 mana to get 2 2/2s and kill the Lone Rider, and that is
I'm thinking if I'm attacking with Foul Bloods as well.
really gross.
Just the Bloodsworn. 16. Go ahead.
So you heard Ari. He said, I'm thinking about attacking with the Foul Bloods as well. Decided against it. Drops Brad down to 16. Sam Pardee, by the way, he's playing Shota Yasuoka, and he's already won his match 2-0. So they're dropping quickly here. We've already got 2 of our 4 matches finished up for round 2 here.
I'll let you know when I've officially declared.
You can see that Brad has done some attacks, and Ari is exploring options, shall we say, on blocks.
These are blocks.
Also, you can appreciate Ari's, how clear he is with his communications. He tells you, I'll let you know when I'm ready, and then he says, these are my blocks.
I'll take that stack.
So they trade off some cards. And Brad follows up with a Fiendbinder.
Cards. 3.
Interesting. Ari has very powerful spell in his hand with
9. Yep.
Faith Unbroken. And let's see how he decides to proceed here. He's going to go with the Courageous Outrider.
Faith Unbroken has to be one of the swingier cards in the set.
That's right. It's the kind of card that, if unanswered, will often win the game. But if answered, well, you're down 2 cards. You're back
Right.
where you started minus a card. And so
14. Go.
you do want to time it specifically. And, you know, I think that the best case scenario is to use it to punch through a ton of damage where you can say, okay, I've gained a huge advantage. And if you have to use your turn to undo all this, you don't get the life back.
Right. Should be particularly good against Brad. I mean, being green-white, doesn't have a lot
Yeah.
of ways to remove the creature. that
No,
he would do.
totally. And that's one of the ways that you can do it, and you don't get your creature back in that scenario. So choking restraints there from Brad. You kind of put that right on cue for your point there, which is that, you know, even one of his better removal spells doesn't actually do what you want. Now, good thing for Ari, though, because, you know, Brad just played the choking restraints now.
So this is tapped.
And we see a Lunarch Mantle as well there.
Go.
Yeah, Brad really trying to just get
He's
Ari
trying
dead.
to race. Yeah, he just hit him for 7. I mean, it was a big turn. He's trying to punish Ari for playing Graph Harvest. You know, so far it hasn't done anything.
Right. But he's doing that by building up these walking 2-for-1 piles.
Yeah, I think Ari's kind of licking his chops here, but it is getting dangerous.
Yeah, Ari's at 2.
He's down to 2 life. He knows he has the tools to win the game, but you can, playing one spell a turn, he might just fall too far behind, and that Fiendbinder is a pretty big issue. Livia's Bloodsworn keeps attacking. It's not going to block anyway. Wow, he has a lot of removal here.
So he uses the Angelic Purge, not the Faith Unbroken.
That's right.
This way he can have 2 blockers available.
That's
for the
right.
Fiendbinder.
And there it is, Lunark
Wow.
Mantle number 2. It gives that creature flying if he wants to sacrifice a permanent.
And he
that was
does.
interesting. It was one of those signs when you saw Ari Lax, he put up his hands. He said, "You got me? Because I'm tapped out. If you
Right.
can tap or get rid of this thing or give that thing flying, then I'm dead." And Brad finds it. Wow. He really pieced it together there. Every turn applying massive pressure. All right, one more match going in the feature match. Let's take a look at it. We've got Yvonne Flock on the left-hand side versus Raphael Levy. And looks like our graphic is just flopped there, but we'll get that sorted out for you. So here we go. So we've got Ingenious Scob there for Yvonne Flock. On the other side of the table, we see black-green, which could be really interesting here, especially with some emerge cards. Oh, and there's one right on the top of Levy's hand here. Abundant Maw. And by one, I mean 2. He's got 2 Abundant Maws. And, with Abundant Maw, he can sacrifice that Foul Emissary, which if you have really good eyesight, you can see there it is. And he's going to get the 3/2 Eldrazi. He's going to get the Abundant Maw, and he's going to get the trigger as well. So what a huge turn for Raph right as we came in. Great timing. And he's got another Abundant Maw in his hand, too. So this is not getting any better for Yvonne Flock.
14? Yep. 14. Go ahead.
You can see that life totals are relatively high for the players. Want to note here that Yvonne Flock is up a game over Raph Levy here, so this is game 2 of their match. So Raph is fighting to force a game 3, but he's doing a good job of it so far. I will say, the blue-red deck, though, is scary. There's a lot of cards
True.
that just say, hey, get some stuff out of the way for a while and hit you for a bunch right now. And, as we saw in the Nelson and Lax match, like, sometimes it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes you just have enough of those tempo plays that you need 2 of them and then the game ends.
Still impressed that Brad won that second game.
I am too.
Because you said it. Ari had all the answers.
He had it all. I mean, he was
couldn't
choosing
deploy them
between
fast
removal
enough.
spells on that
Right.
last turn.
Right. Which removal spell will I play? Okay, I'm going to be vulnerable briefly. I mean, I'm not sure Ari did anything wrong, but Brad did some stuff right.
Well, one thing that we did see that turn 1 Graph Harvest that we talked about. It did nothing.
Right.
It didn't do anything the whole game, which matters. That could have been another spell. Also, it's interesting because Brad played well into it. He said, well, I'm just going to smash you here, right? Like, where you're not going to get to that grindy late game. So looks like Raph is going to go ahead and survey the scene here. He's facing an advanced Stitchwing and an Ingenious Scob. There's also a Clue and a Devil sitting there for Yvonne. But Yvonne's tapped out. So this is a turn where Raph really gets to plan out how he wants to proceed. His life total's still relatively high. He's not under immediate threat of death. He can try to set up a sequence where he plays a creature or 2 and then tries to get that other Abundant Maw down, which is a big life swing. I think he's going to play a Gavany Unhallowed here. He is. And he's going to attack with both. So he's offering the trade here. He can, if Flock wants, he can trade the Devil for the Eldrazi token there, which is a pretty advantageous trade. That's something that Flock's going to be interested in. He had already played a Make Mischief. Okay, well, this one's kind of right in the middle, and our front table is ready to go. So let's head back over and get to the Game 3 conclusion here on Brad Nelson versus Ari Lax. I got to see how this one plays out. And then we'll keep you updated as to Yvonne Flock versus Raf Levy. Kessig Prowler there for Brad Nelson. A nice start. You know, if his game plan is pushing through damage,
Yep.
well, that thing can often get through for a bunch early. Though it looks like it's going to be held up here by that Spirit. So that's not going to be a great game plan. For cancel that order. Here we go. So Lunarch Mantle on turn 2. What an aggressive start from Brad. He's really kind of playing those Lunarch Mantles well here. The question is Ari going to be able to come up with a removal spell to defend? His Guardian of Pilgrims is going to punch in for a couple of damage, but you can see quite plainly that he does not win this race. Brad Nelson has no fear. He's just sending it in there. If you got the removal spell, you got it. This is a big turn here, too, because Ari did nothing on turn 3. And he has nothing to do this turn. So if Brad can add a nice big threat to the battlefield this turn, he could put himself significantly ahead of Ari with, you know, potentially 2 good threats.
The thing we've been saying about how the format is just slow, you
Brad-
have time to do cool stuff.
Brad disagrees.
Brad disagrees. It's like, I would like to feast on a never-ending supply of people who are set up for the mid and late game grind.
Crossroads Consecrator is going to pick up its own Lunarch Mantle. What is happening? It's just... And all Ari can do is play a Courageous Outrider. Now, the good news for Ari is that that's pretty good here. Oh, and he whiffed.
Yep, swing and a miss.
It is tough. This is a big turn here. Because Brad has a really nice turn lined up with Choking Restraints for the only reasonable blocker. And now he gets to just pound in there again for 7 damage. And it's adding up very quickly. Like Ari is legitimately contemplating chump blocking at this juncture.
Sure.
The problem is he might not get a chance to chump block again because Brad can. It's very all in, but he could give his creatures flying next turn. Raf Levy did indeed win that game against Yvonne Flock to force games 3, so we're going to come back to that one if they're still playing as we look at this match, which might be over quickly here. Brad Nelson with an unbelievably fast start. He's got 2 1-mana creatures, both with Lunarch Mantles, and Ari Lax just can't buy a bucket here. He whiffs yet again. He just missed. He gets to look at the top 4, but yeah, he just can't find any humans. But even then, what is he doing with humans at this point?
Look at Brad's hand. Cultist Staffed.
Cultist.
Devilthorn Fox. I Confront the Unknown. He's just not playing the same format as everybody else.
He's
This is
not.
awesome. Attempt to trade? No.
6. Yep.
So Ari's going to take 3 damage here from the Crossroads Consecrator. And there's the Devilthorn Fox. And
Brad's
right
only
now,
got
Ari
3
has
mana.
no board state. Nothing.
3 mana and he's still doing 2 things a turn. Brad's deck seems cool.
I like that it has a super plan. And wow, Ari Lax has to just show him a handful of spells, none of which do enough.
I have Faith Unbroken in my hand. I could have Faith Unbroken to Fiendbinder that turn.
So you hear Ari going over that play that we were discussing with the
End of
2
game
different
2.
removal spells at the end of game 2. And you'll see this, you know, especially among friendly players. They'll say, hey, what if I would have done this? Or I don't know which one was better, and kind of talk it out.
I mean, these guys were teammates at various points in the past, so they know each other pretty well. Thought I was safe.
Yeah, he said
feel
I
like
had
a lot
2
of-
removal in my hand, and he certainly did. We were making similar remarks here from the booth, and it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Right. I feel like a lot of Brad's opponents may say that this draft.
They felt
Thought I
safe.
was safe.
Yeah. Now, I am curious to see what happens if Brad's deck goes up against a blue deck with all the drag unders, unsubstantiates,
Right.
you know, and just sets him back. Anyway, that does leave us 1 match. So we've got Raphael Levy versus Yvonne Flock here. And as we saw in the middle game, Raph looks like he's put together a black-green Emerge deck, which is cool. There's Emerge creatures that are just green, and there's, of course, the Abundant Maw that we saw there for Raph in black. And then on the other side, Yvonne Flock is on the islands and the mountains. So I'm going to take a look at his list here while they're shuffling up and get an idea for which version he has. There's a very spell-centric version, and there's also kind of a tempo deck that you can do, and oftentimes it ends up being somewhere in between.
All right. Good luck. Good luck.
There's one very cool thing going on with Yvonne's deck. He's got 3 copies of Take Inventory.
Oh, wow.
In his list. So 1 in a blue, draw a card, and then you draw an extra card for each copy of Take Inventory in your graveyard. So he can kind of go off with that if he draws a bunch of those. He's also playing a Blood Mist, which is a card that signals that he is the one who's looking to be aggressive and keep attacking in the air or chip in for damage. So we'll keep an eye out for that too. Oh, I see why. He's also got 2 copies of Mercurial Geists. So, yeah. Kind of the 1-card combo with a lot of combat tricks in the format. That's the 1/3 flyer that gets +3/+0 when you cast an instant or sorcery. So let's see what happens here. We've got Conduit of Storms for Yvonne Flock. Not doing a ton here, but it is a 2/3, so it's going to be able to dodge that explosive apparatus from Raph.
Go ahead.
Didn't see what he must have Boon of Emrakul. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Boon of Emrakul, indeed. And an Exultant Cultist now for Yvonne Flock. When that dies, he draws a card. Nice little card, solid.
I like that card. Probably like it more than I'm supposed to.
No, I think actually you're probably right about there. It really does. It just, it goes in Emerge decks too.
Right.
It's
Good to Emerge.
It serves its role very well.
It blocks reasonably as well.
Very much so. You know what it really does well? It double blocks reasonably. And it looks like Farbog Revenant is going to be the play here for Raph Levy. He doesn't want to use his explosive apparatus just to take down 2/2 that draws his opponent a card. So while missing a land drop, he's just going to play the Revenant.
Both these guys are world team champions at various points in their career. Definitely one of the things we're watching as this tournament plays out, to see who gets all those national captaincy seats. Levy's in the mix for France, but not in the lead.
Okay, that's a Gibbering Fiend there for Flock. Not an amazing play against a Farbog Revenant. And wow, Flock doesn't have anything else this turn. I spoke too soon. He's got a Nabelgast Herald in his hand. So he's going to use that to tap down the Farbog Revenant, most likely. And there is land number 4 now for Raphael. So he'll breathe a sigh of relief after hitting that, and now he's got to plan things out. You can take a look at Nabelgast Herald there on the side of your screen. Nice way to get pressure in and keep some pressure off of you. And there's a Crow of Dark Tidings now for Flock.
Go ahead.
Interestingly, Raph just passing through the rest of his turn there, he could say go to combat and, have Yvonne make a decision about what he wants to actually tap down. But by just saying go, it signals to Yvonne that he has no attacks that he'd like to make, and Yvonne can just choose which creature he'd like to tap. He's going to go for the Revenant. That's going to unlock attacks on the ground. At least for a turn. Oh, Savage Alliance, do 2 to that and 1 to everything. And that is going to kill both creatures.
Wow.
And yeah, you're going to mill 2 from the trigger, and then he's going to crunch in for 6. So, man, clear shot, Savage Alliance. Flip a coin on which one's the best uncommon, but Savage Alliance is unbelievable every time it gets cast.
Yeah, I mean, I have Clear Shot as the best uncommon, but that Savage Alliance is very well named. It is Savage.
It's like humans and werewolves hanging out. Ah, that card is so gross, Randy. Look at the board now. All that work that Raph had built up, it's just gone now. Now, Raph does have the explosive apparatus, which is, there you go, good enough to take down the Herald.
Good.
And he's just going to play it safe and do it now.
Nice.
Raph's down to 9. This is game 3. In round 2, they're both up a match from round 1. And looking to go 2-0 and put themselves in that finals of their pod. Ingenious Scob, the follow-up play for Flock. That's a card that you're going to see a lot of in the booster draft rounds this weekend. It's just a super solid common in blue. It goes into
Best blue
every
common?
deck. I think I like Drag Under. But
It's in the mix.
I
for
am
best blue common.
partial to such effects, so it might just be better. He just drew another one, by the way. Which begs the question, how many does he have? And the answer is 2. Very solid deck here for Ivan. Looks like a Dusk Reaver there for Raph. Okay. Ivan doesn't need much. He just needs to get things out of the way for a turn cycle here or push through, but Dusk Feaster is going to do a good job of blocking here as long as Ivan doesn't have a way to do it. You can see Raph is sort of expectantly looking at the battlefield because he's like, look, if you have some way to get this thing out of the way, this game's roughly over. And if the Dusk Feaster gets to sit there and actually block, well, we might have ourselves a game here. All right, Ingenious Scob number 2 from Flock, and he passes. That's going to be a sigh of relief from Raph, though. Not for long. He is going to need to continue to put blockers out. Let's take a look at Levy's hand here and see what he's got going on. Emissary, an Unhallowed Foul Bloods. He does have an Abundant Maw and a certain death that he doesn't have enough mana for as of yet. The Abundant Maw doesn't look too amazing here when you have to sacrifice such a powerful creature on board. So he's got some interesting choices here. He could play his Foul Emissary and hope to hit a 2-mana creature and be able to play 2 creatures this turn. But if he doesn't, then he forgoes the ability to cast Gavany Unhallowed, which is a better blocker. What he really wants to do is play Foul Emissary, hit a 2-drop, play that, keep the Foul Emissary alive, then next turn play Abundant Maw, sacrificing the Emissary, make a 3-2, and kind of reclaim this game for himself. But if he whiffs, he's probably going to end up having to chump block if Flock has basically anything. So really important part of this match unwinding here. And let's see what Raph does. Is he going to go for the Emissary? Yeah, it's a tough spot. You see him shake his head.
The other line is basically play Unhallowed. Gavany Unhallowed and call it good.
Yeah, so then it's... You can hear him counting 2, 4, 5, 6 damage, and he's going for it. Let's see if he can hit a 2-mana creature here.
Land.
There were 2 spells, but I couldn't quite see if he hit. Wow, Raph is just hanging on by an absolute thread here. It would not take much from Flock to be able to maybe kill Raph, at least put him to near death. Yeah, this is about as close as they get, and you can see, look at Raph, he just laughs. Ivan Flock, one of the nicest guys on the Pro Tour. Just an absolute sweetheart. He says, yeah, no, take your time, do your thing. You can hear a lot of math being done by Raph here as he sort of works his way through. Is that a Wicker Witch?
Go ahead.
I think so.
I think it was. I couldn't quite tell, but in any case, it's not a 2-mana spell. Ooh. Mercurial Geist off the top for Yvonne Flock. Now, that doesn't help him at the moment, but he may be able to set up either a lethal attack next turn or a 1-2 punch where he attacks here and then the next turn. Let's see what he does.
Now, he's got Alchemist Greeting in his hand as well.
Okay. So he can use that to kill the Foul Emissary. He can also proactively use it on the Dusk Feaster and get his triggers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually works, and I'm guaranteed that's what he's thinking about right now, where he forces a trade with the Dusk Feaster, but also punches through a ton of damage and maybe even forces a chump with the Foul Emissary, which would be pretty good. If he can leave the board state clear, he knows that that could very easily strand a card like Abundant Maw in Raphael's hand. He's going to take a safer route here. It looks like the math didn't work out for him, so he's just going to rumble with everything. In
Gets
comes
his
the
trigger.
team. Yeah, he's got
So
two
there's
prowess triggers here.
3 4s now.
That's right, and he can make one of them 4 power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not dead. That's a good
Levy does some quick math. Well, I'm not dead.
That is the good news for Raph.
Again, well, I don't have a choice, right?
Well, you do. Can block either this one or this one.
Yeah. Okay.
That was clever.
Take one.
I actually thought Ivan was teasing him and saying you could block one of the ones that leaves you dead, but he was actually saying you can block either of these 2 Ingenious Cops, but you got to block one. So Raph falls down to 1 life here. And let's see, if he goes back up to 4 and plays the Abundant Maw and blocks, he's taking 4. He's dead on board. So he's going to need to just play multiple creatures here and try to stay at least on par with the creatures that Yvonne has. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Raph to find his way out of this.
So
He
serious.
does have enough mana to play both Wicker Witch and Thraben Foulbloods from his hand, which gives him just enough blockers to not die. If he plays the Abundant Maw, he's dead. So it looks like it's going to be Wicker Witch, Foulbloods, go, and hang on for the ride. Almost any spell from Flock that has to do with creatures will get the job
Right.
done.
We know
and
Flock's
Raph
holding
is-
Mercurial Geists.
And he is, yeah. Oh, he's going to go for
Interesting.
the Certain Death, which also keeps him alive.
Sure. Gain 2 life.
Puts him up to 3, and it's a little bit safer of a play because Flock can't interact with this. He's tapped out. It's going to happen no matter what. Wow, this is just so close. Now, the downside to this line from Raph is that he's a lot less likely to be able to get Abundant Maw online next turn. But, you know, you do what you got to do. Oh, man, Raph this is so close.
Okay.
Looks like a take inventory there from Flock because he knows that he can still set up a lethal threat with the Mercurial Geist either way. A
Okay.
potentially lethal threat, I should say. It's not lethal on its own.
Plays his Lyre and chips the turn.
Is that a Dark Salvation? I'm scrambling to the deck list now. Oh, it sure is. Raph just ripped Dark Salvation off the top. That was massive for him. It is not quite big enough to kill the Mercurial Geist because the Dusk Feaster is not a zombie. But it's a flyer. It can still block the Geist anyway, and he can use it to take down a ground threat like probably the Gibbering Fiend, just in case Yvonne can find Delirium at any point, and then put 2 blockers on the ground as well, making it really difficult for Flock to get in on the ground. Now, I'm really curious to see what Raph does here.
2
He has
zombies and kill a
no
guys.
wiggle room.
2 zombies and kill a guy seems pretty good.
I agree with
His-
you.
I guess he can also just play 2 creatures.
He can. Yeah, he can still make the play that we talked about earlier where he goes Foulbloods, Wicker Witch. And that does set him up for the Abundant Maw next turn, which
Right.
is a priority when your opponent is playing red and can just burn you out from anywhere. A land off the top for Flock. His other card is a Vilden Pack Outcast, which is fantastic and could very well win him the game down the line, but it's slow. He needs to just cast it for 5 here and pass the turn, and Raph is still alive. He was at 1.
Crazy.
I think that was Borrowed Malevolence off the top there for Raph, which would mean if he leaves up black mana, that could also be a deciding card. It's about as close as they get. So now the question for Raph is, does he want to just play Abundant Maw? That would get him up to 6 life, which is clear of cards like Incendiary Flow and Fiery Temper. Or he can go for Dark Salvation, kill a creature, and leave up Borrowed Malevolence. Yvonne with a subtle reminder about the clock here. As you know, you can't blame Raph. This has been the tightest of games. He has no wiggle room at any point. So he needs to, like, if he just plays one spell wrong, he's just dead. It looks like he's going to go for the Dark Salvation line here and just say, well, I hope he doesn't draw. Oh, he's actually going to combine it with Borrow Malevolence to kill the Vilden Pack Outcasts here.
Okay.
So that was -3/-3 thanks to the Thraben Foulbloods plus the 2 zombies. And then he gets to tack on an additional -1/-1. And that makes a lot of sense. That creature could easily just kill him or at least force his whole team to block.
Ooh, an attack.
An attack has happened. Trades? Tradesies, anybody? And Yvonne says, look, maybe, I'm actually just going to take a look right now.
Yeah, double block.
Draw.
Massive trade.
He does not have Incendiary Flow in his list. Raph won't know that, of course.
Flock got 2 draws since the cultist died.
He also,
One of them was an island.
yeah.
Okay.
Fogwalker, not really what Yvonne Flock wanted to see here. And I think Raph might win this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's now ahead on board
And
and
he's-
able to play his Abundant Maw.
That's right. Abundant Maw, get rid of Wicker Witch, and gain 3, go to 6. You go down to 15
Go ahead.
and pass the turn back. He's still going to keep Dusk Feaster back because that Mercurial Geist is the scariest. Uncaged Fury, the Blood Mist, he could die pretty easily to it, so he's going to make sure to respect it. But Raph Levy has clawed his way back into this game. Fantastic stuff. Remember, the Fogwalker has Skulk, so he actually can just attack through Raph's team here. And Raph is going to need to now try to close this game out quickly. He doesn't want to die to 2 hits from a Fogwalker and an Incendiary Flow. Now, again, Flock doesn't have that, but
Send them all.
are we going to see a grotesque mutation here?
Wow.
Oh, man!
Raphael Levy, ladies and
Raph
gentlemen.
Levy wins the tightest of matches, and you can see the relief on his face.
On the brink of dying of many turns.
So close to death. So many turns.
Yeah, he's had some time in the booth, and he said it, on the brink of death, so many turns. And he found it. No wiggle room. He had no room for
That was well
error there
played.
that whole time, and he
Super
actually
well played.
found the win. I mean, in situations like that, your mentality has to be, there's things I lose to, ignore those, and then focus on what you can actually control and
Right.
sequence those out. And that's exactly what Raph did, and he did a really good job of it. You know, it's not like Flock didn't need much, right? Like there was a
No, he
lot
thought
of
he had
times
it.
when
He had the one
it.
all-in attack that put Levy to 1.
Mhm.
He's just like, I'm just going to attack again next
Yep.
turn. That should do it. I've got multiple creatures, but Levy just fended it off.
Great stuff down in the feature match area. We've got one more round of draft coming up for you, but for now, let's head to Richard Hagan at the news desk.
Thanks very much, Marshall and Randy. What a beast Raf Levy is. Hall of Famer. He's been in Pro Tour top 8s a decade ago and 2 decades ago. Can he make a 3rd decade's worth of Pro Tour top 8s? Well, winning games like that will certainly help. Now, out on the floor, of course, great magic everywhere. Luis Scott Vargas, he's in contention for the Hall of Fame slot at the World Championship. He was up against Pierre Dajon, who leads the French World Magic Cup race by a single solitary point from the man you've just seen win there, Raphael Levy. Right now, out on the floor, BDM is with the winner of that match.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Hall of Famer Luis Scott Vargas. Luis, every time I looked over in that game 3, it looked like you were pretty far behind. Tell me, how were you able to pull that game out?
Yeah, that game was really weird because I didn't play a land on turn 3, so I was like pretty screwed. But my opponent Pierre, he didn't have a lot of pressure, and I kind of enacted this plan on turn 3 or 4 that I knew would come to fruition if I was to win the game on around turn 15, which was to keep chump blocking his 4/4 Geistfield Scarecrow. I couldn't let it go to the graveyard because his Angler would flip because it's a colorless creature. And keep getting hit by his 3/3 flyer, play Subjugator Angel, hit him with exactly just Handwear Garrison to make 2 1/1s and hit him with a 2/3 down to 16. I hadn't damaged him yet. Next turn, untap, chump block, go to 2. End of his second main phase, cast Long Road Home on Subjugator Angel. It flickers. Beginning of the end step, it comes back, taps all his creatures, and I attack with everything. And it ended up happening. Like, it ended up happening where I had to have everything go right for like 5 turns after everything going wrong for like 5 turns.
And so that puts you at 2-0 here at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. You're coming off 2 top 8s. You're in contention for the Outstanding Hall of Famer Award, which is an invite to the World Championship. What does it mean to you to be playing on the Pro Tour with all of these other Pro Tour Hall of Famers and to be right at the top of the standings alongside Shota Yasaoka and so many other great players?
I think it's awesome that me and Finkel are in contention for Outstanding Hall of Famer because, you know, I wouldn't say retired because I certainly play all the tournaments and all that, but it's cool seeing that we can still game. Of course, Finkel's always, been a threat to top 8 every Pro Tour he's ever played in. Shota's obviously an outstanding Hall of Famer as well, but he just, he's one of the new guys still, so no one ever, called that into question. But it's a good group. That's definitely an invite that's going to go to someone who had good results this year. Both Finkel and I have 2 top 8s. Shota has a top 8.
All right. And then we have one more round of draft to go here before we get to see what Luis cooked up in Standard with Team Channel Fireball and Ultra Pro. But right now, one more round of draft.
Thanks very much, BDM, and thanks very much to Luis Scott Vargas, one of your outstanding Hall of Famers. Could he be the outstanding Hall of Famer by the end of the weekend? Well, draft outcomes are coming in. The draft master is going like this. John Finkel won his round over Robert Dale. So Finkel goes to 48 points, but Marcio Carvalho continues to set the pace. He came in at 43, and he has won and won again. Just now coming in, he defeated Eric Severson. Severson playing a big part in the allocation of Draft Master because he beat Thiago Saporito last round. Saporito now at 0-2. Matej Zatlkaj is up to 45 points. Shota Yasaoka up to 45. Chris Calcano won that round to go to 46. But coming up on the rail, someone we haven't talked about yet, watch out for Nathan Holiday, Platinum Pro, part of the Ginger Global Alliance. He has won his first 2 to go from 39 to 42 to 45. And he is still looking for a stumble from Marcio Carvalho, but just keep an eye out for Nathan Holiday. So, more draft coverage coming your way. Earlier on, we had our draft, of course, and the draft viewer. Now, very popular. I know lots of you love to put yourself in any of the seats round the table from our feature table and work out what you would have done with every pick. Well, right now, we get to find out what someone did. Over there waiting for us at the video wall is our own Ian Duke and one of the larger-than-life characters in the game. Here comes Antonino De Rosa.